Welcome back to episode 3 of the Iceberg Sea Ice series. So far, things have been going pretty smoothly. Sarah's had a few victories and a few bitter losses. Unfortunately, she lost her walrus friends. R.I.P. Wally and Russell. But hey, maybe she'll replace them soon. The next short-term goal for the run is to try to get the first new colonist recruited. I am going to be a bit picky, but I don't want to take too long to find one. Already another group of yaks has joined the colony. Where in the world are these yaks coming from? Is there a yak farm nearby or something? I would not have expected so many wild yaks out on sea ice. Muffalo or snow hare I can understand, but yaks feel a bit out of place here. We really need a colonist that can take care of animal handling. It's a bit too much to have to send Sarah out every single time to shoot the animals. Seems really uncivilized, doesn't it? Sarah's just finished researching another tech. I suppose it's not very exciting when you can't even use it, but eh. Let's also make sure she has all the smelter bills that she's going to need in the near future. I think we need to add a tattered clothes bill, and then we should be good. A transport pod is crash landed just outside the hideout. He's a member of Tyron, so let's try to heal him up and get him off the map. You get so much goodwill for every rescue, and at this point, Sarah doesn't really have much else to do, so... He's not dying too quickly, so we should be able to rescue him in time. Alright, he's all tended up. Now we just wait until he can walk again. While we wait, let's convert a bunch of this raw food into nutrient paste and then we can shut the machine off. JT's already healthy enough to be able to walk. If we let him, he'd snooze the entire time and keep eating Sarah's food until he's fully healed, so let's do what we did earlier and just delete the sleeping spot and get him moving. And there he goes. See ya, JT. Hope you have a good walk back home. A wanderer has showed up just outside the colony. He's asking for shelter and claims he has nowhere else to go. And let's see what kind of stats he has. Ooh, ouch. Very neurotic. He does have the medical skill we need, but I'm not sure it's worth risking that massive break risk threshold. Aside from that, we're gonna have to pick a name for our faction and settlement. I think I'll random a few times and see what names we get. Laura is a good name for a faction. Foothurst. Foothurst for a frozen settlement? Perfect. I feel pretty bad sending him away knowing he has nowhere else to go, but I'm gonna blame Sarah on this one. It's her fault, not mine. She allowed him to enter the hideout only to hold him at gunpoint, ordering him to drop his gun and take off his pants. Look, it's not like that. She needs the pants for herself. Don't make it weird. I have to say though, what you did here was pretty messed up, Sarah. I can't help but judge you a little bit for your decisions. Anyway, let's smelt down this pistol and the mask that we just got. The hideout's still looking pretty cold. Only the main room and the adjacent hallway are heated, and everything else is still freezing. Hey, at least Sarah has some halfway decent cold protection, so she's okay for now. Just a quick bit of nutrient paste reduction here. There we go. Other than the unbutchered yak, basically all the raw food has been turned into nutrient-based meals. Now I can just let Sarah slowly munch on those meals as she researches. Colony wealth is still quite low, which is keeping the raids pretty easy. So far she hasn't had to deal with anything that was too risky. Well, aside from that shot to the spine, but that was just bad luck. Meanwhile, Goju's tech is just finished. Not particularly exciting at the moment, but let's see what we can go for next. Yeah, gas apparition, that makes sense. We might be able to make heavy SMGs in the not-so-distant future. I think she's going to end up researching every single basic tech before getting enough steel to make high-tech research bench. Another pollution quest. This one's really tempting to take for 28 plasteel. But I think it's probably a bad idea to continuously take pollution quests without having any outlet for pollution, besides just leaving it on the map. Later on we could potentially drop it on other tiles, but even that's not a great idea here since steel is really such a limited resource here on Sea Ice. For a while you could deep drill on Sea Ice, but they finally got around to fixing that, so no more unlimited steel. We'll have to be really creative when sourcing our steel in the mid to late game. And on top of that, we'll have to be very careful how we end up using it. The blizzards that hit this map are absolutely insane. Look how intense this one is. These penguins are out for a casual swim in the middle of a blizzard. I guess they don't mind. I certainly would not want to go swimming right now. Meanwhile, Sarah's in her cozy hideout researching away. If this place had some floors, it would be way more cozy, but it's still not bad compared to being out in the ocean in a blizzard. Alright, the blizzard has passed, but Sarah's still researching away. She doesn't really have anything else to do at the moment. The lifter bot does all the hauling, and pretty much anything else gets done by the construction bot. It's been busy smoothing walls and putting up the occasional leather flap door. We really need to replace those things with actual doors soon. That's another thing on the list of projects. And now gas operation has just finished up. We really need to start working on getting a machining table going. Just like every Sea Ice run, steel's going to be a big early game hurdle to get past. There is an ancient danger on the map, but I'm going to avoid opening it for the most part. Partly because although it's doable, it's still dangerous with one pawn. But more importantly, Sea Ice really should not have an ancient danger, and I think it's only here because of Iceberg. So I'm going to avoid it, at least until the mid to late game. Let's go ahead and send Sarah up to mine this silver. She's really not going to get much, but at least it'll be something. Alright, there she goes. Just don't freeze to death while you're out there. If you collapse, your robots have no idea how to save you. She made very quick work of this thing. Her mining skill is quite high now, so she can mine on a meter like this in no time. Unfortunately, she didn't end up with much silver at all, but that's silver mining for you. I wonder why they never bothered to balance these things. Silver is by far the worst resource to mine of all of them. And then she's immediately back to researching again. At least you don't have to watch all the boring in between of her just sitting at the desk. Well, on to IEDs. Another reason to get a machining table going as soon as possible. I'd really love to set up IEDs along the main crossing paths of the water. Saying that out loud feels really weird. Hey, look how fast IED's finished. This is the combination of her having such high intellectual skill and her doing absolutely nothing else besides research. I may have edited out some of the downtime, but it still only took her about a day, all by herself. While she was busy at work in the hideout, a raid has showed up and their only goal is to destroy the wind turbine once and for all. I think we all know that's what they're really after. So far everyone has failed though. Let's make sure we keep it that way. 4 raiders and they brought some guns this time. Problem is, they're extremely old. One is 83 with hearing loss and the other is 82 and frail. I have to say, it's extremely questionable to send your elders to raid another colony. They must be awfully desperate. Sarah managed to land 2 shots in the first 2 volleys to absolutely devastate the front raider. Let's fall back before they get a lucky hit with that auto pistol. The next 2 volleys missed their main target, but both managed to hit 2 of the approaching raiders. I'll take it. 1 raider is down as soon as they hit the ice. The next follows not long after, and the remaining 2 have realized the error of their ways and are running home. Unfortunately for them, Sarah wasn't having any of it, and took out the remaining 2 before they could cross the water. Let's strip and bring in any useful resources that we can. Each of their weapons will smelt down into a bit of steel, and that's going to be quite helpful. Nice, after that raid we finally have enough steel to build the mini turret. I'm going to build this one out of plasteel. Not only will it cost a bit less steel that way, but it also has significantly more HP and is non-flammable, which basically makes it better in every way possible, except for damage. It still does the same damage as a steel turret, but I'm not really worried about that. Awesome, that's built and ready for the next raid. A refugee quest has come up. Honestly, I usually ignore these because the risk of them turning on you is pretty high, but in this case I think I'm going to risk it. Plus, I really think Sarah needs to do something good to balance out Pants robbery. So, let's bring in the refugee. It would be really nice to have an extra pawn around to fish, or even just to tank damage on the next raid. Let's see what kind of skills they have. Well, a decent trait and good animal skill, but no medical. The extra high plant skill does make it tempting to keep him, but I think I'm still going to wait and try to find a second colonist with medical skill. In either case, he can stay here for a while to finish the quest, and he can spend most of his time fishing while he's here. I'm going to use the remaining plasteel that we have to upgrade some doors. It gives back a bit of the wood, which we can end up using for something else. Let's also set up a fishing zone for our new refugee friend. His high animal skill means he should be able to produce quite a bit of food from fishing. Let's go ahead and work on heavy bridges next. I wonder if a heavy bridge can survive an IED explosion. It would be pretty useful to set up a single heavy bridge along their crossing path with an IED on top. Worst case, I can always build them on the shore or just use regular bridges. But then again, I don't particularly want to keep replacing the bridges, so shore might be best bet. Our refugee friend has already started producing some fish. Hopefully he continues to be useful and doesn't end up betraying Sarah. Hey, we even gave him his own room. A nice sleeping spot in the somewhat heated hallway. How could he betray now? It'd be unthinkable. Oh, nice. He already got a rare catch. I hope it's human meat. Good lord, he hooked a human leg and dropped it on the ground right next to him. Is this the Edakeen equivalent of leaving a mouse on the doorstep? You better clean that thing up, buddy. Don't make Sarah clean up your human flesh. Visitors have just arrived. Maybe they'll be willing to buy some fish. Or human meat. Whatever. Let's sell the extra clothing and drugs and buy some pemmican. Oh, and the steel knife. We can smelt that down. That's a pretty good trade. They didn't want the human meat, unfortunately. What are we even going to do with this stuff? Sarah certainly is not going to eat it. Oh, what great luck. A bulk goods trader has just showed up from the east. They will in fact buy the human meat, so you know what? It worked out in the end. all this excess leather can go. It's such small amounts now that all we could really hope to do is combine into patch leather and then make one item, but I'd rather sell it at this point. I also want to sell off a fair bit of the fish. It's worth quite a lot. Unfortunately, this is a tribal trader, so they didn't bring any steel. I'm going to take this opportunity to get as much wood as possible. We'll figure out a use for it later. I sold a bunch of that fish and already Oyesh has fished up another 55. Fishing really is a powerful source of food on a map like this. It does seem to take a bit of the difficulty out of the early game of sea ice, but oh well. Oh, now Oyesh is having a bit of a sad wander. I guess he doesn't like his bedroom. The freezer still isn't working optimally, so let's go with one of the suggestions one of you folks gave in the last video. Let's just connect the solar room with a vent. That should keep the freezer at least at the temperature of the exterior. I don't think it'll ever go above freezing, unless we see some temperature raise event shenanigans. Okay, there we go. The freezer should be reliable now. No more rotting food, please. At least we still have all this fish, and we should be okay. It looks like Oyesh has already finished up his time staying with Sarah. He did spend most of it fishing, but honestly that ended up being quite useful. Now he's off to return to, well, wherever he's returning to. I'd say home, but he's a refugee, so I'm not sure if his home exists anymore. Maybe he got frozen over in ice. In any case, good luck Oyesh, and thanks for not betraying. Meanwhile, Sarah's getting closer to that point where she can just deconstruct the basic research bench and stop researching until she can get the high-tech version. One thing I want to work on is making the front edges a bit more robust. Eventually, I want to go for a double door that can serve both as a nice defense and a little bit better insulation. For now, this should work out pretty nicely. We'll get a second door built there soon. And another raid has shown up in the south. It's from the Kamisa Confederation, notorious for their deep hatred of wind turbines. This time it's only 3 of them, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Well, they didn't immediately start bashing the wind turbine, but they did take cover behind it, which ultimately ends up being just as much of a nuisance. I'll send the robots out to melee lock, and then see if Sarah can get a bit better angle so she's not blasting the wind turbine. There we go. Once the bots got into melee, the raiders dropped extremely quick. Wait a second. What happened to the third one? They never even made it across the river. They let their 2 friends die and then just ran off home. That is downright cowardly. Hey, a loot cargo pod has landed in the colony. looks like Oyesh has sent a gift as a thank you for letting him stay here so long. Unfortunately, it's a gene pack that I cannot possibly store or use anytime soon. It's such a wonky gene pack on top of that. Great animals plus no hair and pig ears? What a lovely combination. I wish I could keep it, but it's going to end up just decaying, so... Oh well, thanks anyway, Oyesh. Hey, even better, cargo pods have landed out on the west side of the island, filled to the brim with berries and steel. Two of the best things we could hope for at this point in the game. I'm just going to pretend Oyesh sent those as well. Thanks, Oyesh. Sarah's just minding her own business in her cozy ice hideout, and more raiders have shown up looking to cause trouble. It's pirates from the Armadillos this time. At least this time we have the turret ready to go, in case they... Oh, never mind. They're literally equipped with only AMP grenades. This one should be as easy as it possibly could be. And all three drop before they could even throw one. This Edakeen is absolutely worth. Not great shooting, but she has tough as well as high animal and medical skill. It's exactly what we're looking for. If she had shooting, she'd be perfect. Luckily, it's really easy to level shooting, even with no passion. Awesome, we might have our second colonist here. I'm putting her in the barracks with Sarah. It's a bit cheesy, but if we clear the prison while she's in the room, she'll just rest on the floor until she can walk. Then she'll wander around and feed herself while still allowing for recruitment, even though she's not technically in a prison. And since she's not in a prison, she can't prison break. Like I said, it's a bit cheesy. Now we need to see about smelting down 2 of these EMP grenades. I'll set up a build just to smelt 2. Sooner or later we might need 2 or 3 of them, but I'd much rather have the steel for now. Let's take a look at that volcanic winter quest. The plasteel would be nice, but honestly I think I'd rather try to get a couple ranks of the Empire for the Silinx and eventually try to get a permit or 2. Maybe we can even trade that gold away to the next caravan. Volcanic Winter basically changes nothing on this map, so it's pretty much a free quest to finish. Sarah has already started to reduce the resistance of Orisa. The goal is to reduce resistance to 0 and then switch over to conversion. After she converts Orisa to the colony ideology, then we can finish the recruitment process. It will take a while, but since Sarah has literally nothing else to do, it'll be over before we know it. There's enough steel now to build a subcore encoder again. It's one of the last steps we need to complete, again, in order to grow new bots. I think I want to try to get a couple Militors next. Alright, the encoder is all done. Now we just need a bit more steel, then we can build a core and start gestating one. Oh, hey, another transport pod crash. These have been great for Goodwill. She's all tended, and now we wait before rudely kicking her out into the cold. It didn't even take a full day before she was able to walk again. Let's delete the sleeping spot and send her on her way. It is pretty chilly out there, so be careful on your way out. And there we go, another 16 Goodwill. It's pretty easy. Oh, nice. Chunks of spacecraft have impacted nearby. That'll at least give a little bit of steel towards our next robot. While we have a second here, let's swap out the clothing for Rissa. Alright, nice. Already down to 13.7 resistance, so we're quickly making some progress here. Unfortunately, it's only knocking off 0.6 per attempt, so it's still going to take several more attempts. And then add conversion on top of that. It's still going to be a while. Let's have a party to show Rissa how much fun she'll have when she joins us. Oh, it was terrible. Okay, not like that, Rissa. No, of course I meant like this party. Well, at least it was only boring. But honestly, that's a fair assessment of life in this colony. Could be worse. Ooh, a slaver has showed up at the colony. I've been waiting this entire time to see one of the crew members of Sarah's ship show up with one of the slavers. And by that I mean any pawns with a suitable backstory. But so far that hasn't happened yet. Unfortunate for the story. Unfortunate for my pawn count. Then again, I don't think I'd be able to afford to rescue and free a colonist from a slaver even if I found someone. At least the trader can hang out outside in case we get raided. And of course, right after the trader left, the Kamisa Confederation is back again. At least it's only 2 raiders this time, and they're both melee, so this should be pretty easy. Yep, look at that. Got them before they can even begin their attack. Alright, let's get back inside. Our prisoner's down to 4.5 resistance, so we're making a lot of progress. I've been calling her Rissa, even though she's currently labeled as Grancier. Rissa's her first name, and Grancier's her last. I'll end up changing her nickname to Risa as soon as she joins. Well, assuming she joins. So far it's going quite nicely, and she should be joining rather soon. Hold that thought. A massive group of snow hares are migrating through. We really need to take advantage of this. Wow, we got so many. Even though each one won't give much meat and leather, in total it should be a nice amount. Let's leave the lifter bot to haul all these in. Let's get Sarah back inside. A quest has popped up offering pollution again. This time around, the rewards are much more tempting than the last offer we got for one of these. I am still on the fence on whether or not I really want to be adding more pollution, but a book that gives medical and mining skill up to level 10 is just too good to pass up. Let's grab it and we can deal with the consequences later. We're going to need to add a new bed for Risa soon, so let's do a bit of shuffling with the furniture here. This gives us a new seat, but I think we still need to move the rest of this and add a shelf in. Perfect. Reese is down to 0 resistance, and now we can get on to conversion. Toxifier generators was the last tech we could possibly end up using that comes from the basic research bench, so let's finally be rid of this thing, get the resources back. That does mean we're stuck at the high-tech research bench bottleneck. All that's left now is to add a bed for Risa. We've already got another migration coming through, but this time it's Arctic Fox. Alright, Sarah. Same thing as before. Let's see how many you can get before they make it off the map. Surprisingly, quite a few. Her shooting skill is way higher now than it was at the start of the run. If she tried to do that same thing in the first few days, she probably would have only gotten 1 or 2, if even that. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the fox fur to make a couple more kneel pillows. They aren't the most cost-efficient way to improve impressiveness of a room, but given our limited resources, they're going to work perfectly fine here. I want to try to get the biggest mood boost from this room that I possibly can. Ideally, I'd use art for that, but it's really not going to work too well here. At least until I can get more art from quests. %27 left to convert. We're almost there. It's hard to believe Sarah's already been here for 3 years. But time flies when you spend every waking second researching things that you might not ever use. At least she had the companionship from her robots. I wonder if she'll end up treating Risa like a robot. Well, let's hope not. Oh hey, more yaks have joined. We don't really need more food at this very second in time, but then again we have the second colonist joining soon, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. That being said, once Risa joins we can have her on fishing duty, so food really shouldn't be much of an issue, but I'm not going to turn it down. Let's place some sleeping spots just outside the door here, so they can come in closer to sleep. Hey, look at that. They've already come up to sleep. Risa will be able to handle the animals after she joins, but one last time, let's send Sarah out to use her charge rifle to finish these yaks off. Instead of storing them in the freezer, let's leave them out here in graves. That way there's really no chance for them to rot or be destroyed. And there we go, stored for the future. Risa is so close to finally being recruited that I think we should get around to building that bed for her. She won't be able to use it until she joins, but hey, a little incentive never hurt. And immediately after that, she decided it's time to join. I'm pretty confident that it was the bed that finally convinced her. Welcome to the team, Risa. I hope you and Sarah become good friends. Because of all the recruitment attempts, Risa is already quite fond of Sarah. But unfortunately, Sarah doesn't reciprocate the feelings. Maybe in time she will. Alright, she's already out fishing. Perfect. Some visitors have appeared, and immediately after that, more insect eggs have popped up on the ice. I'm sure the timing is purely coincidental, but you never know. We've got some extra jade that we could use to build more fences and get the impressiveness of the barracks up even higher. More mood boost from having a good barracks, dining room and rec room would be quite useful. The visitors are leaving and they've decided to leave directly through those new insect eggs. Awesome. Really well done, guys. The visitors died nearly instantly, and now the bugs are heading up towards the base and they're angry. And now we're going to have to deal with this before they smash up the wind turbine. There's no weapon for Risa at the moment, so we're just going to have her hold the door for now. The best part about Risa is that she's robust, from being a Yidakeen, and she has the tough trait. So she should take only a very little amount of damage, hopefully. Her and the two robots at the choke point should do a decent amount of melee damage. I'm going to turn the turret off now so they don't swarm it and destroy it before I can do anything about it. Well, Risa definitely took a few wounds, but nothing too serious. She can self-tend since her medical is so high, and then she should heal up pretty quickly. Wonderful. Immediately following that, we have a Manhunter pack of polar bears that have run in. At least we can shut the doors and hide out inside. There's plenty of food that will last us quite a while, so we should be okay. Polar bear should serve as a pretty good defense, right? Let's take a look at what Risa and Sarah have been chatting about since she joined. Risa gabbed about maple trees with Sarah. I love that Sarah hasn't seen a tree in years, and one of the very first things Risa brings up is maple trees. Just before that, they were talking about savory foods, and not long after, they were talking about the weather. I like the idea that the conversation went from savory foods, which obviously needs to be balanced out with some sweetness, so your mind goes to maple syrup to maple trees, and from there the lamentation that you could never grow maple trees here. How will they ever get maple syrup out on the ice? It really all boils down to maple syrup, doesn't it? Clearly, we need to get these two some maple syrup. Even more yaks have joined. I'm completely convinced at this point there must be a source nearby. It's just continuously releasing yaks. Since you wouldn't start a yak farm out here on the ice, it must be something else. Maybe there's a transport ship that was carrying thousands of yaks that ended up crashing on the planet. How else could so many yaks end up here? Anyway, let's get out there and clean up. At least this time Marisa can just slaughter them quickly instead of having to rely on the charge rifle. It was a bit too brutal after all. We've got quite a decent sized stockpile of wood in this storage. Well, large is relative, but still. Let's go ahead and start using some of it. It would be really nice to finally put some floor in. I really dislike using flammable floor, but I dislike the movement speed penalty on ice even more. One of the worst parts about sea ice is that pawns are constantly slowed. It's so nice when you finally get the floor installed. When you're so used to watching the pawns move at reduced movement speed, it starts to become normal in your brain. So when they finally get back to moving at 100% movement speed, it can be a bit jarring. Looks like they're moving at double movement speed when in reality they're just back at normal. Alright, that should be enough floor for now. We'll need more later, but this will work. Looks like we also have enough steel now to get our first Minotaur growing. Let's make that core and then throw this thing in the gestator. Get its growth started. It still feels weird to say that we grow machines instead of create them, but I guess that's just how it goes in RimWorld. Let's skip ahead just a bit here and... oh look, the Minotaur's already done. Let's grab it and have it follow Sarah around. Then again, most of the time it'll probably remain dormant to save on energy. Either way, it's going to be quite handy to have this extra gun in combat. Between that and the mini turret, we should be relatively safe for the near future. At least until the raids start getting a bit bigger. I think it's time for a party. Who knows, maybe they'll get a really good new colonist. It's probably not a great idea to add too many until we get hydroponics up, but if the pawn's high quality, I won't say no. We could always rely on fishing for now. Look, even the Minotaur is participating in the party. Weirdly enough, it's the best dancer of the three. We did get a new colonist as a reward from the party, but she's a wimp and incapable of quite a bit. I think we'll probably skip this one. At least we got a mood boost and the reform points. Let's try again with the party. It would be nice to get enough points to do a reform. Oh, and just then a bulk goods trader showed up. Really, I should cancel this ritual and send somebody out to trade. Just in case they leave early because of the cold. I'm not going to though. Let's try to finish the ritual up and then we'll go trade. I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh wait, this is the visitor. We want to be trading with the bulk goods trader instead. We can get rid of all this leather, and on top of that, let's sell all the extra clothing. I'll probably regret it, but I'm going to get rid of some of this food too. Now that we have fishing, I'm a little bit less concerned about food running out. In exchange, I'm going to grab some wood and this really nice parka. Truth be told, I might have been better off saving the resources for a bulk goods trader that had steel, but I'm just going to hope we have new stuff to trade by the time another one shows up. On the way out, the visitors chose the worst direction possible. You think they'd see the eggs from a mile away and completely avoid them, but instead, they walked right into them. All the insects popped out. Ouch, one of the visitors died. But at least they managed to take out the rest of the bugs. Wow, Sarah's daughter is passing by to the south. This has been the first hint of another survivor from the shipwreck that we've seen in nearly 3 years. I wonder if Sarah had given up hope of finding anyone else by now. I imagine Sarah's daughter must have been rescued from her pod by some of the villagers of Tyron. Since she was grateful and had no other options, she probably decided to stay with them. Unfortunately, Sarah has absolutely zero clue that her daughter is passing by. She'll come and go and the two will never meet. That's awfully sad. At least those of us following the story will know she's alive. Maybe they'll be reunited one day. For now, we can only hope. And now a pack of manhunting Arctic wolves have arrived. Hopefully Sarah's daughter made it away before the wolves showed up, because they sure do look hungry. Let's hide everyone inside for now. A wanderer has just arrived at the colony and is going to request a stay. Unfortunately for her, there's a pack of hungry wolves still roaming around outside. As soon as she saw the wolves, she decided it was absolutely not worth the trouble, so she turned around and started running for her life. She even dropped some of her stuff in a panic. How convenient. Well, the wolves have left and a bulk goods trader has arrived not long after. Remember what I was just saying about how I should have saved resources to trade to a caravan that had steel? Yeah, who would have thought it would have happened so quickly after? There's 341 steel on this caravan, and unfortunately I do not have much to trade. At least we can grab 75 steel. I'm going to butcher some of these animals that are in the graves and try to trade the resources for more steel. That's enough to finally build a machining table at least. That's perfect. Oh, penguins have arrived, and we finally have a colonist with animal skill high enough to tame them. I doubt they'll fish for themselves since the walrus has stopped, but worst case scenario, we can have Risa fish and then feed them that way. I'll try to disable some of them with the rifle and then tend for the tame chance. Well, that didn't work at all. But at least Risa managed to tame one of them. Now we just need a female and we'll be able to grow the penguin population. That'll be pretty awesome. That's the end of episode 3 of the Iceberg series. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on all future videos. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, please consider checking out my Patreon to help support the creation of more videos like this one. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.